Well, hello and welcome to this really important lesson. It's now Module 4, Lesson 2, and we're talking about insurance. I have to say that insurance is one of the things that a lot of new organisers struggle with. I get a lot of requests for, what should I do? Who should I go to? And so I always send them to Rachael, who's going to be introducing the topic in a moment. But I'll tell you a little of the backstory. Way back when I first started as an organiser in 2005, I was hunting around, going to different, business insurance brokers, and really organising was so new, nobody knew what it was. And finally, I stumbled upon somebody who said, yep, I know what that is. And then proceeded to, not only tell me that I knew what it was, but really did know what it was. And then they took an interest, thankfully, and developed a policy or found a policy that really suits organisers' needs. Now, I have been with them ever since, and Rachel's my account manager. She's always really helpful, as well as not being knowledgeable about the topic, which is, there's ins and outs of it, and it's quite complex. That's why I've got her here talking about it and not me. So I'm going to hand over to Rachael Hirsch, and she's going to explain all about your insurance questions answered. Welcome, Rachael. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you for the opportunity to help any other people involved in your study, help them with their business and understanding their insurance need. It is, as you said, a topic that it's hard to get your head around, and a lot of people don't really know where to look, what's involved, how to best understand it. So I'm hoping this presentation is here to help answer some of those questions, to give you a better idea of what you need. Otherwise, I'm always around, always more than happy to talk. So Angela's asked me to put together a presentation which, as you can see on the title, highlights just what the importance of your insurance for your professional organising business is, and understanding what is available to you. So I'm just going to go through the slide and break down the information in a little bit more detail. Otherwise, there's plenty of information on the slide. You're welcome to read through it. And as I said, ask me any questions if you need it at any stage. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you at any time. So to start off with, so you're probably wondering who's Rachael, who's Stellar Insurance Brokers. So we were started up in 2003 under a previous name, but now operating as Stellar Insurance Brokers. So I'm Rachael Hirsch. I've been a part of the business since 2012. And I'm involved in managing the professional organising scheme that we have available. So we've been running this, as Angela said, she got in contact with us in 2005. So it's been run for 15 plus years. And over that time, we've developed it to suit the needs of professional organisers and what covers they specifically need, and allowing the insurers to understand them the best way possible. I'm sure a lot of you have trouble sometimes explaining what the activities are that you're doing and what's involved, and trying to then relay that to insurers and other brokers and stuff can be a bit complex. So we've done that process for you, and we put together a package to best suit that. So we're located in Brisbane, but we can manage insurance for anyone in Australia. So more than happy to chat to you if need be. So what insurance do you need and why do you need it? So obviously you've established this business, you've put assets into it, you've spent hard-earned money into it. You need insurance to protect what you've built, your assets, your livelihood. So particularly as a startup business, a lot of people invest their own money into these sorts of things, and it's hard to imagine if something happened, even if you don't feel you necessarily did anything wrong. If someone then was to come and sue you or seek recovery off you or something like that, what position is that going to put you in? Can you afford that loss? Can you afford to pay those legal fees? Can you afford to pay out someone if you've done something wrong? So it's important to understand what insurance you need and to best protect that and your business moving forward. So moving on to the next slide. So the types of insurance that we recommend for professional organisers, there's two key policies that we suggest you take up, and we have a scheme available to cover that. So the two main products, and you may have heard of them along the way, is public liability. So that's going to protect any personal injury or property damage to third parties. And I will elaborate a bit more with some claims examples in a moment. And then professional indemnity. So that's covering any financial loss that a third party suffers or the legal costs associated with for any negligent act or errors or omissions, any advice that you're giving as part of your services. So this, as I mentioned, the policy we have available covers both of those together. As well as that, there are some other covers that are worthwhile considering, just depending on the business and what sort of activities that you are doing. So if you're an office-based business, or if you have a mobile phone or equipment, laptops and things that you're using that's part of the business, if something happens to them, you need to have access for them to be available again. We can organise insurance for that. Cyber cover, which is pretty self-explanatory, but obviously if someone hacks into your system, if someone's sending fraudulent emails on your behalf to your clients and trying to recruit money out of them, policy will respond to cover things like that. Management liability, so this is more so based around if you have employees as part of the business, which not all of you will. It might be just a sole trader business that you're doing, but if you are managing employees as well, this will cover things like crime from your employees, any tax audit, defense costs if you were investigated for a tax audit, and things like OH&L. So if workplace health and safety came in, wanted to investigate you, the legal costs that are involved in that sort of process. So there's a lot to break down under that policy, but again, more than happy to discuss it. And then workers' compensation. So again, if you have employees, you need to be covering their workers' compensation as well, which we can talk about in further detail if needed. So under the scheme that we have available for professional organisers, there's two main insurers that we use. One is called FTA Insurance, which is backed by Lloyd's of London, the biggest insurer in the world. And then the other is CGU Insurance, which I'm sure you have heard about somewhere in the insurance world. So they both offer a combined professional indemnity and liability policy. So you don't have to worry about individual policies or any confusion there. It's one policy joint together. And I think, as I mentioned previously, so when Angela made contact with us many, many years ago, it was hard. We found a lot of people find it hard to explain the activities that they're doing. Professional organisers can do so many different things. They can vary from day to day, and trying to get that concept over to another broker or another insurer, they can get a bit confused as to what's going on and might think that you're an assistant to someone or a management consultant or something like that, and not necessarily rate your risk appropriately. So we've designed this product, and there's been a lot of discussions over the many years with both FTA and CGU, so that they understand all those activities that are involved, what sort of work's going into it, and what your exposures are, which is the main key here. We've also been able to make sure the premiums are quite competitive. So over the last 10 plus years, the premium has gone down, if anything. I know when I started within the business, it was basically double what it is now. So we're constantly there negotiating what options are available, low excesses. And then we're involved too. So we will manage your claims for you. We're always here to talk to you about what options are available, and any questions that you might have. So how to arrange insurance. So being a startup business, you might not know where to go, what options you have available, who to talk to. So I'm more than happy to get on a phone, just chat to you whenever need be. Even email correspondence is totally fine as well. Alternatively, on our website, which is linked here, but I can send you through the details too, we have an online proposal form which just asks a few questions about your business and what you're doing. And we then use that to approach FTA and CGU to get the most appropriate cover for you. And we'll send those options over to you to let you have a look at, quotes, everything like that. It's flexible, so there's options there to increase limits. Some of you might be dealing with a particular client that wants you to have a higher limit than what's the standard available. It will vary from person to person, and that's the key here. This product is designed just for you and it's for your business. So there's flexibility there to manage it appropriately. So what benefits does our policy have? So there's obviously going to be other insurance policies in the market. Over the years, we've designed this to make it the most competitive option for you. We've negotiated to have the excesses reduced, so the excesses are now $500 for both professional indemnity and liability. One of the key things here is that under the professional indemnity, the excess is called it's called cost exclusive. So you might read exclusive and think, oh, that's not necessarily a good thing, but in fact it is. So it means that the excess isn't payable until the settlement of the claim, whereas under most professional indemnity policies, it will say that the excess is cost inclusive, which means that as soon as you start incurring costs, so if someone notifies you that they're going to sue you for any advice that you've given and they've suffered a financial loss, as soon as a lawyer's appointment, as soon as that claim starts to get underway, you're going to be asked to pay up your excess, whereas the cost exclusive option, that doesn't happen until the settlement is processed. So it's definitely a benefit, particularly for small businesses not having to pay that upfront costs amidst all the stress of trying to manage a claim and everything like that. As I said before, it's flexibility there. There are some professional organisers that are doing some other activities such as bookkeeping and things like that. There's options there. We're always talking to the insurers. We're always trying to see what we can do. And if for some reason it doesn't fit under the scheme that we have set up, we are a broker. We are there to find a product that's suitable for you. And we'll go down the process of doing that. This is the scheme that we have set up is not an off-the-shelf product. It's been designed specifically for professional organisers. And it's there to make sure that you're not exposed if something happens. And then a key thing I wanted to highlight is that the policy is an individual policy for you, for your business. So you're not as in part of a group policy or a master's policy. Each policy is made out to one person or one entity, invoiced to that person. There's no option there for someone else to come in and have access to your cover or anything like that. And unfortunately, there is options like that in the market, which you need to be very careful of. And again, I'll go into a bit more detail of that in a moment. So some claim scenarios. So the two main covers that you need to consider is public liability and professional indemnity. So under public liability, you've probably heard of public liability for many different avenues, whether it's just your personal public liability or anything like that. But just as a quick claims scenario, so if I read through the first one here, so if a customer, so you say you're doing some decluttering or organising for a customer and they want to give you access keys to their home, that includes keys to their vehicle, their office, anything like that, you lose those keys and you have to replace them. So for this example, the car's a Mercedes. So you can only imagine what sort of costs are involved to replace the keys. You might also have to pay for the locks to be replaced. Who knows what's involved, but a simple thing like that where it's just an accident or a pure mistake, but you were responsible for those keys, you're going to be held liable. You have to pay those costs. So in this instance, the costs are $2,600. If you think about it, can you afford to just pay out that sort of money if something like that happened? There's a few other options there which I definitely encourage you to read through as well. In regards to professional indemnity, so I've listed again a few options here, but I'd like to just explain a claim that was actually with one of our clients a few years ago now, another professional organizer. And this is a pure example of you haven't necessarily done anything wrong, it's just a case of bad luck, but because of your involvement, you're deemed to be responsible, and this is where a claim gets paid out. So with this particular client, and it's similar to the scenario at the top here, she was organising some accommodation for one of her customers overseas. They were going over to New York for a week or so. They wanted to stay somewhere quite nice in New York. You can only imagine what sort of costs are involved here. So this client organised accommodation she just found online. It looked very genuine, no issues. Booked the accommodation. I think it cost about $7,000 or $8,000. And then it turned out that the money got transferred and the people that were running this accommodation just disappeared. They were not contactable. There was no return of any funds. There was no confirmation that the accommodation was booked. And after further investigation, they determined that the website was actually fraudulent. The money had disappeared. Whoever had taken it had just run off with it, basically. So obviously, our client, the professional organizer, had recommended this accommodation to her client, her customer. They'd spent the money to pay for it as per her recommendation, and now they were out of pocket $7,000 or $8,000 because of that recommendation. So when that claim came to light, I was involved in managing that claim as well. And I looked over the website and there was nothing about it that highlighted any concerns to me whatsoever. I would have made the exact same mistake. It was just unfortunately a case of bad luck. And the policy that she had in place at the time paid out the cost to reimburse her customer for that accommodation. So that's an example, but again, I've listed a few here, which I encourage you to read through as well. So just a couple common questions that we get asked. So you may see that there is some other insurance options available in the market for professional organisers, and they might highlight that they've designed a product specifically for professional organisers and things like that. So you may find that these terms that they offer are slightly more competitive, but there is a reason for that. It's very much a case of you get what you pay for. So a couple of things which I really want to highlight and make very important when you're looking at what insurance options you have available for your business, particularly being a startup business. I can understand that having that upfront cost of insurance can be quite costly, and you're going to want to find the most competitive option. But as I said, there's a few key areas to look for. So one of the options available for professional organisers is under what's called a group or a master's policy. So this means that they basically have one policy that falls due at whatever time. And as new organisers come on, they just get included within this policy. And so you just basically have one policy where a premium's paid every year. And it could hold, 20 to 100, however many professional organisers all under the one policy. So if one of them makes a claim, say the policy limit for professional indemnity is $1 million. If one of them makes a claim that's $800,000, that means that until the policy comes up for renewal, which could be 9 months away, don't know, depending when it's due, that means that you and everyone else within that group policy only have $200,000 worth of cover left. So it's basically you're paying for someone else's risk. You're paying for insurance for your business, but you're also paying for someone else's business. And you don't know what they're doing. You don't know if they are managing their business appropriately to make sure that there's no potential for any claims. You don't know what's happening. So I think the question I ask is, do you want to be paying insurance for someone else's business? That's the key here. There's a couple other variations between them. I believe that the excesses are slightly higher. The excess is cost inclusive. Like I mentioned previously, that's a disadvantage, not an advantage, whereas ours is exclusive. And the product is just for professional organisers. There's no flexibility there to allow the inclusion of additional activities and things like that. So just be cautious of that. If you take out that cover and you start looking at expanding the business, doing some extra activities, that you may then have to look at an alternative insurance solution as well. And then the last question I've got here is, will you be covered for any legal costs that you incur if you're not liable? So say something happens and one of your customers say to you, oh, I'm going to sue you, I hold you responsible for such and such. And you have to go through the process of appointing a lawyer, which if you're insured, that will obviously be organised by the insurer, but you go through the process of organising a lawyer. As soon as a lawyer is appointed, the costs start incurring, the bills start coming in. You can't afford to be paying those costs up front. So the policy will still respond to cover those costs, even if the end result after it goes through court or whatever the process is, if the end result is that you're not liable, there will still be costs involved to defend you. So the policy will respond to cover those defence costs at the same time. And then lastly, just a picture of my face there, if you wanted to put a face to a name, which is always a bit nice. So I'd just like to say thank you to Angela for giving me the opportunity to make this presentation and make you a bit more aware of your insurance needs and what the risks and exposures are for you. I'm more than happy to take the time to sit down and have a chat to you, whether that means you're going to take out insurance or not. I'm always here. I'm always happy to answer any questions that you might have. So my contact details are just on the bottom there. Feel free, like I said, to just touch base throughout any stage, and I will be happy to sort it out. But otherwise, thank you so much for taking the time to look over this, and I look forward to hopefully talking to you one day. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you, Rachel. That is so helpful. And I mean, as the students will understand, it is a really complex area, and it is so important to get it right. The consequences of not getting it right don't even bear thinking about. Like you said, you work hard to build up your business, and you don't want to have it all, the rug pulled out from underneath you by something that you may not have even done wrong. So
exactly.
Thank you very much. And I do encourage everybody to get in touch with Rachel when you come to thinking about your own insurance. Goodbye for now.